Let's start with the guy who makes this whole list feel plausible before we've even proven anything. Don Dokken's voice has taken a beating over the decades. And if you've caught a recent show, you know the high notes that once defined the 80s don't show up much anymore. Naturally, fans have started whispering the same theory they whisper about everyone else on this list, backing tracks. The thing is, whispers aren't evidence, and nobody's produced the smoking gun here.
Maybe tonight you'll be gone. We're the Dream Warriors.
There's no manager slip up, no audio analysis, no viral wait. Was that even him moment? Just a guy whose range shrank the way most 70-something ranges do, paired with an internet that assumes every imperfect note must be secretly perfect somewhere else. So consider Dokken the entry point for this whole video. Proof that an aging voice alone isn't proof of anything. Keep that in mind, because some of the cases coming up are a lot harder to wave away.
But it's strong, it still remains. In my dreams, you're still by me.
What should you be waiting for? Hello, Daddy. Hello, Mom.
Joan Jett shows up in exactly the kind of comparison video where editors line up alleged lip sync fails next to each other set to dramatic music. And yes, she's been named alongside Roger Waters and Kiss in a few of those. But here's the honest breakdown. What exists is scattered performance clips and internet suspicion, not anything close to an admission or a documented pattern. Nobody from her camp has confirmed pre-recorded lead vocals, and no audio engineer has done the kind of side-by-side breakdown that sunk other artists on this list. So we're including her carefully, as a genuine open question, rather than a verdict. Jett has spent decades building a reputation as one of rock's most reliably no-nonsense performers, which makes any accusation land differently than it would for someone who's already admitted it. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just rock and roll paranoia. Either way, the jury's still out, and we'd rather tell you that than pretend otherwise. Here's where things get really interesting, because AC/DC breaks the pattern in a useful way. Fans dissecting recent Power Up tour footage have pointed to specific moments, including bits during Jailbreak, where the gang vocals seem to keep going strong even after band members have clearly stepped away from their microphones. That's suspicious, sure. But notice what's missing from that sentence. Brian Johnson's actual lead vocal. Even the fans making these accusations aren't claiming his voice is the fake part. And reports from the 2025 tour keep praising how strong he sounds for a man in his late 70s. So if anything is happening here, it's the background chorus getting some studio help, not the frontman phoning it in. Consider this the control group entry. Proof that a band can lean on technology for the big choruses while the actual aging rock star still shows up and does the hard, dangerous, unassisted part himself. Roger Waters has been fighting this accusation for years. And unlike most people on this list, he's actually talked about it. Fans who caught the us plus them, and this is not a drill tours, have spent years comparing notes on which songs felt life and which didn't, within the flesh, sheep, and another brick in the wall, coming up again and again. Waters himself has discussed using playback selectively for vocal parts that had simply become too difficult to nail life anymore, which is about as close to an admission as this list gets without a direct quote. And he's in his 80s now, so nobody's shocked that some notes moved to tape. There's even a funny wrinkle. At a 2023 show, Waters botched the opening of Have a Cigar, which fans immediately flagged as accidental proof that at least that performance was the real deal. Nothing quite says rock and roll like a mistake becoming your best alibi. Rob Halford's case is fascinating because it's built on a genuinely brutal problem. The man is still expected to sing Painkiller at over 70 years old. And if you know that song, you know how insane that request actually is. During the 2025 Shield of Pain tour, footage circulated of Halford pulling the microphone away from his mouth while a very prominent lead vocal kept right on going. And fans immediately started cataloging which songs might be getting help.
I'm a human sacrifice. Oh, no. It's so damn wicked. You got me by the throat.
With Painkiller, A Touch of Evil, and Solar Angels regularly named, here's the twist though. Nobody has an admission. And Halford can still deliver genuinely stunning vocals for his age. So maybe this isn't a singer who can't cut it anymore leaning on tape. Maybe it's a smart veteran protecting his voice from the single most punishing song in his catalog so he can survive the rest of the set. Either way, that microphone moment is hard to unsee.
Oh, no. It's a car stuck in there. You never let me go. I'll be yelling it out. Yelling it out.
If this list needed a headline case, Paul Stanley is it. For years, fans noticed him losing the upper register on classic Kiss songs, and by the end of the road tour, accusations of pre-recorded lead vocals were everywhere. Then, in Antwerp in 2022, drummer Eric Singer flubbed the timing during Detroit Rock City. The band fell out of sync, and Stanley's vocal apparently kept going according to the arrangement instead of what was actually being played. Video spread fast. Then Kiss's own manager, Doc McGee, was asked point blank whether Stanley sang to tracks and simply said he'll sing to tracks, insisting the tracks only supplement his live singing. And here's the delicious part. Gene Simmons once publicly trashed other bands for doing exactly this, holding Kiss up as one of the groups that never used tapes. Years later, his own manager confirmed otherwise. Even Sebastian Bach came to Stanley's defense on age grounds alone. Legacy, complicated. Irony, perfect. Blackie Lawless deserves credit for being refreshingly honest, because he just admitted it outright. Asked directly in 2022 whether W.A.S.P uses backing tracks live, his answer was simply, yes, we are using backing tracks. No investigation required. His reasoning is that W.A.S.P studio records are built from doubled, tripled, even quadrupled vocal layers, and performing those songs without that layering made the sound feel thin by comparison.
To answer your question, yes, we are using backing tracks. You want to know why?
Yes, sir.
When we go into a studio, and let me clarify that statement.
So, pre-recorded versions of his own voice help fill the room. Where it gets messier is how much of the heavy lifting those tracks are actually doing. Something fans were still arguing about well into 2026. When critics complained, Blackie's response amounted to, "Don't come then." He's about 70 now, and still touring hard. So here's the real question this entry raises. Are you paying to hear W.A.S.P sound exactly like the record? Or what W.A.S.P actually sounds like tonight? Very different tickets.
I can tell you might not be
Henley's entry might be the most quietly explosive one on this list because there's no admission here. Just a mountain of suspicious math. A musician going by Wings of Pegasus on YouTube took recordings from different Eagles shows, synced them up, and found performances from separate nights that sounded extraordinarily, almost impossibly similar. Comparing shows spanning October 2023 through September 2024. Fans ran their own comparisons of Sphere performances afterward and came away convinced the vocals were essentially identical night after night, which isn't how live singing works. Nobody's voice hits every syllable the exact same way twice, let alone across separate concerts months apart. Henley is in his late 70s, still singing songs he recorded as a young man. And in plenty of these shows, he's simultaneously playing drums. Nobody from his camp has confirmed anything. But when the internet starts syncing waveforms instead of just complaining, that's usually when a rumor starts becoming a pattern. Save some outrage for this one, because it's barely a week old. Just days ago, in August 2026, Nikki Sixx publicly confirmed that Mötley Crüe uses backing tracks on stage, insisting the band still plays every instrument 100% live, while pre-recorded elements like orchestration fill in what the stage simply can't reproduce. He even name-checked Queen's use of taped elements during Bohemian Rhapsody as inspiration. Fine, reasonable, almost boring, except former guitarist Mick Mars has accused the band of leaning on far more pre-recorded material than that during their stadium shows, which turns a tidy explanation into a genuine he said. Sixx firmly denies the extreme version. And then there's Vince Neil, whose live vocals have been mocked online for years, which ironically might be the strongest evidence his own voice isn't the part getting replaced, since nobody fakes a performance that rough on purpose. So who do you believe? Sixx, Mars, or your own ears? We're closing on the toughest. One, because there's nothing funny about this story. In 2024, footage of Frankie Valli performing at 90 years old went viral, showing him appearing disconnected from the polished vocals coming through the speakers, sometimes missing cues entirely while the sound continued without him. It sparked concern that went beyond the usual backing track debate and turned into a harder question. Should this man still be on a stage at all? Valli responded directly, saying nobody was forcing him to perform, and that he genuinely loved being there, while reports described shows leaning heavily on backing singers to carry what his voice no longer could. By August 2026, at 92, health problems finally forced him to cancel his remaining farewell dates. This one isn't really about catching someone faking a note. It's about watching technology stretch a legendary career further than the body underneath it could honestly go, and knowing when that stretching had to stop. So there you have it. 10 rock legends and one running theme. Nobody's voice survives 50 years of screaming into stadium microphones unscathed, and technology has quietly become part of how the biggest names keep the show going. Some of these cases are basically confirmed. Some are still up for debate, and a couple are honestly just internet suspicion looking for a home. Which one convinced you, and which do you think we got wrong? Tell us in the comments. I read everyone, And if you love the messy side of classic rock like I do, hit subscribe.
Can you come out tonight? Can you come out?